At the age of 14, Sue Lyon was cast as the definitive Lolita in Stanley Kubrick's controversial 1964 film, a part that would change her life forever, but never as anyone might have expected. What should have been the beginning of a Hollywood starry trajectory turned into the first of a string of missteps and heartbreaks that made up a life marked by fame, exploitation, and a desperate search for love that ended in tragedy. But perhaps the most shocking revelation about Lyon came after her death, when her best friend, the musician Michelle Phillips, dropped a bombshell about the darkest portion of her past, a secret nobody saw coming. Lyon's life started far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Born in 1946 in Davenport, Iowa, Sue Lyon struggled early, and so did her family. Her father died when she was 10 months old, and the family struggled to get by without him. Her mother, who had to raise 2 children by herself, had to make the dollars stretch. Lyon was only 11 when she began working as a model, using her beauty to help support her family. Her adolescent form matured rapidly, and with a soulful beauty on that form, she was ahead of other girls her age in the cutthroat modeling world. It was this lure that brought her and her family to Los Angeles in pursuit of bigger opportunities. But even with her stunning looks, Hollywood's success wasn't handed to her on a silver platter. In her early years, Lyon struggled to get big parts. She made some minor television appearances, including on The Loretta Young Show and Dennis the Menace, but none gave her career much of a lift. But in 1962, destiny stepped in. She found herself being cast in what would be perhaps the role of her lifetime, the controversial sexed-up Dolores Haze, known as Lolita, in Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of the Nabokov novel. Hundreds of actresses read for the part of the sultry, seductive girl who would be the object of an older man's obsession, but it was Lyon's peculiar mix of youth and maturity that had Kubrick enthralled. Lyon was older than the character she was playing, but Kubrick felt her features, her expressive eyes, her adult body, were right for the part. Many viewed her as the living definition of Lolita, her perfect blend of innocence and forbidden allure. But for the 14-year-old Lyon, the film proved a double-edged sword. It made her a star, but also placed her under the kind of scrutiny and judgment far beyond her years. When Lolita came out in 1962, Lyon, then 16, was too young to see her own performance. But the reviews were hard to ignore. Critics hailed her performance, describing her as an incredible talent, and many highlighted how she managed to play the character with both vulnerability and an almost dangerous magnetism. The film, whose subject matter was controversial for the time, became a box office hit, and Lyon found herself thrust into the public eye overnight. But even as the film's success earned Lyon acclaim from both critics and audiences, it also ensnared her in a defining role, obscuring any subsequent projects she may undertake. Lyon was only 16 at the time and received accolades, including a Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Female Newcomer. While she was recognized for her talents, she was also weighed down by the burden of being popular. In interviews, Lyon spoke about the emotional strain Lolita exerted on her, explaining that she was uncomfortable with the way the public and the media viewed her. She had been catapulted into an adult world of adult themes and adult expectations when she was still a child, and this state of affairs would be an internal battle for the rest of her life. It was after making Lolita that Lyon got stuck in a 7-year contract with Stanley Kubrick, so even when the movie was done shooting, she was still under contract with his production company. On top of all this, the terms of the contract tied her hands from looking for other parts, constraining her career options. Although she went on to star in films like The Night of the Iguana and 7 Women, none of the roles were as high profile as Lolita. Lyon's once promising career started to fizzle. Worked without the support of Kubrick's production company, she found it difficult to regain the momentum that she'd had during her moment of fame. The industry, maybe put off by her affiliation with the controversial movie, if it ever was, appeared to turn its back on the young actress, forcing her to battle for the roles that she wanted. Her personal life, by contrast, was a stormy blend of failed relationships and endless heartbreak. The absence of father in her life left a huge hole, a hole Lyon spent her adulthood trying to desperately fill. Her first marriage, to the filmmaker Hampton Fancher, never stood a chance. When Lolita reached the theaters, Fancher was 29 and living with another actress, a fact that he freely divulged. But when he spotted Lyon in a promotional still, He was so struck by her beauty that he pursued her in earnest. Lyon was just 17 and already dating a man twice her age. The marriage is hell from the start. Fancher's possessive, jealous behavior brought constant tension, and when he made a scene on the set of Lyon's next film, The Night of the Iguana, the director, John Huston, banned him from the production. By 18, Lyon had filed for divorce, attributing Fancher's turbulent and combative behavior. The next relationship, with the singer-songwriter Donovan, seemed a new beginning, but it too led to heartbreak. When their relationship was more public, it was a short-lived one, but one that was scarred by the tragic death of Lyon's older brother, James, who died of a drug overdose in Mexico. His last words, "Sue, I love you," written in scroll on the dashboard of a stolen car, tormented Lyon for years. Lyon's personal life, though, remained fraught, marked by heartbreak and ongoing difficulties, but she continued to fight for her career. She signed a 2-picture contract with Marcello Mastroianni, but a car crash left her with a knee injury that made it impossible for her to take the roles. Theories of sabotage arose, hearing Lyon being still contracted to Kubrick. This incident initiated a gradual decline of her career. Lyon made the brave choice during the 70s to marry a second time, this time to a photographer and football coach by the name of Roland Harrison. Their interracial relationship, though scandalous at a time replete with racial prejudice, became yet another flashpoint in Lyon's private life. The suppression she encountered from the media and from Hollywood producers had an effect on her career, and by the early 1970s, the union ended in divorce. Pregnant and with her reputation in tatters, Lyon wound up working as a waitress. Lyon's quest for love persisted, but with each succeeding marriage, it was worse than the one before. Her short-lived marriage to Cotton Adamson, a man now serving 40 years in prison for second-degree murder, was a press feast. The marriage, which took place in a prison ceremony, lasted a year. By the end of the decade, Lyon's career was basically over. She was seen mainly in low-budget films, including science fiction projects that did little to bolster her presence in Hollywood. Lyon married Edward Weathers in 1983 and made one last go at love. But of course, this marriage, like all the rest, collapsed within a year. In a 1996 interview, she reflected on her tumultuous life, which she poignantly blamed on Lolita unraveling her soul. "That movie dates my destruction as a person," she said. "Lolita introduced me to temptations no girl of that age should be subjected to." In the years that followed, Lyon's mental health began to decline, and she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which progressed over the years. And in 1980, Lyon retired from acting after making her last screen appearance in the low-budget horror movie Alligator. Her life slid into its own lips into the background leash, shredding details that refused to dance, not one until October 2023. Sue Lyon, who played her in Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Lolita, died on 2019 at 73. Her death, which came after a long illness, marked the conclusion of a life that was part triumph, part tragedy. But Lyon's story did not end with her death. Following her passing, her close pal, Michelle Phillips, made a shocking claim during an interview. When she was just 14, she was sexually exploited by Lolita producer James B. Harris. More than 18 years Harris's elder, and married at the time of Lyon's revelations, became the first to refuse to confirm or deny the sexually compromising allegations, but the accusation was enough to demonstrate the full extent to which Lyon had been taken advantage of. Lyon's is a tragic story, one of beauty and fame, and of Hollywood's dark underbelly of power. Until things spiraled out of control in a series of messy scandals and panic-inducing headlines that followed her closely like a dog whistle, she was a precocious, happy young girl, thrust into the white-hot life of a world spun out of control, at an age that should have meant living for the moment and growing up with a teenage smile. Sue Lyon's legacy will always be linked to Lolita, but it's also a story of the pain and heartache that resulted from it, the exploitation, the solitude, the quest for a love that was always a step past her grasp.